The seventh example that we have here with us is very few nations are as materialistic as the USA. So very few nations are as materialistic as the USA. What does USA stand for? It stands for the United States of America. This is the expansion. United States of America. In short, it is called as USA. Now look here, students. So far, we have discussed sentences which begin with no other in the positive degree. Now we have a different kind of a sentence. So far, we have done all these 6 sentences that we have changed into positive degree began with no other. Now every rule has an exception, and this is the exception here. Now it is given as very few nations are as materialistic as the USA. So when are you going to use very few and when are you going to use no other? That you have to have a clear idea about. Okay, so very few nations are as materialistic as the USA. Okay, so as dash as. So this is in the positive degree. Right? This is in the positive degree and it is ending with as dash as, where dash stands for the adjective and it is materialistic. So when are you going to use very few as the beginning of a positive degree? Okay, if it is given this way. Okay, one of the materialistic nations. When we say one of the materialistic nations, then the positive degree will begin with the words very few. Okay, so very few nations are as materialistic as the USA. So now we will change this into comparative degree. Okay, so how are you going to change this into comparative degree? USA is one of the many nations that are materialistic. I repeat, USA is one of the materialistic nations. If you say what is going to happen, here you have already got very few. Very few nations are as materialistic as the USA. So USA is one of the many nations that are materialistic. Can we say it that way? Because you need to change it into comparative degree. As materialistic. So materialistic, more materialistic, most materialistic. So here you have only materialistic, which means it is in the positive degree. How are you going to change it into comparative degree? Think for a while. This is a little tricky one, right? It's not as simple as the ones that we have discussed so far. So you will begin with USA is more materialistic than many other nations. I repeat, USA is more materialistic than many other nations. So you have more materialistic, which is an indication that it is in the comparative degree. Then you have the special word than. So these two are an indication that this particular statement has been changed from the positive degree to the comparative degree. So USA is more materialistic than many other nations. Now I want you to concentrate on the word many. So far we have been writing it as any and not as many. Now why do I write this as many? Because the positive degree begins with very few. I need to change this from any to many. So United States of America is more materialistic than many other nations. So we have got it in the positive degree. We have changed it into the comparative degree. Now we have to change it into the superlative degree. So how are we going to change it into the superlative degree? USA or the United States of America. So more materialistic should be changed to most materialistic. Materialistic, more materialistic, most materialistic. So USA is, and which is a special word that you need to add before the superlative degree? The special word is than. Or is it than? No. Than is a special word to be added in the comparative degree. The special word to be added in the superlative degree is the definite article the. So, USA is the most materialistic of many other countries. So here it is given as nation. So let me write it as nations. USA is the most materialistic of many other nations. So we have changed it from the positive degree to the comparative degree, and from the comparative degree to the superlative degree. So you have the special word the here, then you have most materialistic, which is an indication of the superlative degree. Materialistic is positive degree, more materialistic is comparative degree, and most materialistic is superlative degree. So very few nations are as materialistic as the United States of America. United States of America is more materialistic than many other nations. Then that is the comparative degree. USA or United States of America is the most materialistic of many other nations. Right? So I shall give you a few more examples and we can wind up this session of degrees of comparison. At the end of the class, probably you can make a note of the rules that I have discussed while explaining this particular unit, that is degrees of comparison. Shall I give you a few more of my own example, students, and then we'll wind up the class, right? Are you all still with me, mentally with me? Yes. Let's move on to another example. We'll move on to the 8th example, students. I'll give you my own example. Lead is the heaviest of all metals. This is example number 8. Lead is the heaviest of all metals. So you have IEST added here and you have the special word the. So this is an indication that this is in the superlative degree. How do you conclude that it is in the superlative degree, students? Because heavy is positive degree, heavier is comparative degree, heaviest is superlative degree. Now heavy, the word heavy, children, it is ending with the letter Y. Sometime back I told you that to change the degree of comparison from positive to comparative, either you have to add IER or only ER. When are you going to add IER, students? When the word ends with the letter Y. Remove the Y and write it as HEVIER, IER. That is the comparative degree. And what would be the superlative degree? HEAVIEST, IEST. It's not just EST, it is IEST. Here it is not just ER, it is IER. Why should it be changed to IER? Because heavy ends with the letter Y. So whenever the adjective ends with the letter Y, remove the Y add IER to change it into comparative degree, remove the Y and add IEST to change it into superlative degree. Now lead is the heaviest of all metals. It is in the superlative degree. Now how are we going to change it into comparative degree? Now heaviest has to change to heavier. What is a special word to be added immediately after heavier? The word than. So you will write it as lead is heavier than any other metal. Full stop. So heavier has IER, and then there is a special word than immediately after heavier. So this is in the comparative degree. Right? Now we need to change it into positive degree. So it should begin with the words no other. No other metal is as heavy as the lead. No other metal is as heavy as the lead. So you are beginning with no other, ending with as dash as, and heavy is the adjective that you have made use of. So from heaviest we have changed it to heavier, from heavier we have changed it to heavy. So from superlative to comparative, from comparative to positive degree. Right? Lead is the heaviest of all metals, superlative degree. Lead is heavier than any other metal is comparative degree. No other metal is as heavy as the lead is the positive degree. Shall we do two more examples and then wind up, students? Let's move on to the 9th example, and that is iron is stronger than any other metal. I repeat, iron is stronger than any other metal. Right? Now, which is the adjective here? Stronger. Stronger is the adjective. Right? And it is ending with the letters ER. So, strong is positive degree, stronger is comparative degree, strongest is superlative degree. Strong ends with the letter G. It does not end with the letter Y. Therefore, to change it from positive to comparative, we just have to add only ER, not IER, only ER. And strongest would be STRONGEST, only EST. Why? Because the word strong does not end with the letter Y but ends with the letter G. Now, stronger is the comparative degree. Then the special word than, right? So you have stronger, you have ER added to the word strong, which is comparative degree. The special word than immediately after the comparative degree. That means this entire sentence what I have written here, iron is stronger than any other metal, is in the comparative degree. So now we need to change it into the other two degrees of comparison. Which are the other two degrees left? We have to change it into superlative degree and then we have to change it into positive degree. So let us now change it into superlative degree. So instead of stronger, what are you going to use? Strongest. Then are you going to use the word than? Not at all. Than is a special word only to be used in the comparative degree. Okay, so before the word strongest, you are going to have the definite article the. So let's go about changing it into superlative degree and then into positive degree. Iron is the strongest of all metals. Iron is the strongest of all metals. I have added EST. Okay, that means I have changed it from comparative to superlative. Then there is the special article, special word, the. Right? So, iron is the strongest of all metals. This is in the superlative degree. Right? So, the special article here is the. What is it? It is the definite article. How many articles do we have? 3. What are they? A, an and the. A and an are indefinite articles and the is the definite article. So, the special word is the definite article the. Now, we will move on to how we are going to change from the superlative degree into the positive degree. So, how should the positive degree begin? It should begin with no other. No other metal is as strong as iron. No other metal is as strong as iron. So, I have begun it with no other, ending it with as dash as, and the dash stands for the adjective in the positive degree. So, no other metal is as strong as iron. So, this is the 9th example that we have covered. So, let me give you one more example and then you can write the rules that you have to bear in mind while changing from one degree of comparison to the other 2 degrees of comparison. So, the last example that we are going to discuss today. Okay, we finished with lead is the heaviest of all metals. We have also discussed iron is the stronger than any other metal, the strongest metal, right? Now we will have one more sentence and that sentence would be, okay, Asia is the largest of all continents. Right? Asia is the largest of all continents. How many continents do we have? 7 continents, right? Out of the 7 continents, which is the biggest? You can even have this as biggest, largest or biggest. Asia is the biggest of all continents or Asia is the largest of all continents. You have the definite article, the. Right? And then you have here EST, here also EST. Either you can have it as the largest of all continents or you can have it as the biggest of all continents, right? So, the definite article the placed before the superlative degree of comparison. So, this is, okay, this is superlative degree. Asia is the largest or the biggest of all continents is in the superlative degree. Now, let us take just one as an example. We can substitute it with biggest or we can have largest. So, either of the 2. So, Asia is the biggest of all continents. Okay. Asia is bigger or larger than any other continent. Asia is bigger or larger than any other continent. You have ER added here. Even if you take larger as the adjective, you have bigger or larger. So, that means this is in the comparative degree. Then you have the special word than. So, than must come immediately after the comparative degree. So, Asia is bigger or larger than any other continent. Then no other. No other continent is as big or as large as Asia. No other continent is as big or as large as Asia. You have begun with no other and you're ending it with as dash as, where the dash refers to the adjective in its positive degree. So no other continent is as big as Asia or no other continent is as large as Asia. Then what is the comparative degree? Asia is bigger or larger than any other continent. What is the superlative degree? Asia is the largest or biggest of all continents. Now, I think we have discussed 10 sentences and we have been able to identify whether the given statement is in the positive or comparative or superlative, and how you have been able to change from one degree of comparison to the remaining 2 degrees of comparison. So if you want, you can quickly take down the rules that you should keep in mind while changing the sentences from one degree of comparison to the other degree of comparison. Let's quickly write down the rules and wind up for today. Let's quickly jot down the important points related to the conversion of sentences from one degree to the remaining 2 degrees of comparison. Okay, let's put it as rules. Fine. So, what have we discussed so far? We have discussed what an adjective is, what are the 3 degrees of comparison, yes, and now we shall learn or we shall write how a positive degree should begin, how it should end, what are the special words to be retained in the comparative degree and in the superlative degrees. We'll just write that down and then we can wind up the class for today. Okay, students? So, we have how many degrees of comparison? So, you can write there are 3 degrees of comparison. Okay, what are they? One is positive degree, the other is comparative degree and the other is superlative degree. Okay, positive, comparative and superlative. Next you can write how the positive degree begins. So, positive degree begins with, how does it begin? Most of the time it begins with no other. There are cases, there are possibilities that it can also begin with very few. So, most of the time the positive degree begins with no other. There can be occasions, there can be possibilities when it can begin with very few. And how will the positive degree end? So, the positive degree ends with as dash as, where the dash refers to the adjective mentioned in the given statement. In the given statement. But it should be in its positive degree. The adjective must be changed into its positive degree. So, there are 3 degrees of comparison. They are positive, comparative and superlative degree. Positive degree begins with no other, or sometimes it can also begin with very few. Positive degree ends with as dash as, where the dash refers to the adjective mentioned in the given statement, but that adjective has to be changed into its positive degree. Next, the comparative degree. The comparative degree must have the special word than. Which is that special word? It is than. Where should be the position of the word than? Than should be written immediately after the comparative degree. Immediately after the comparative degree of the adjective. Next, the fifth rule, the superlative degree. The superlative degree must have the definite article the. Okay, the superlative degree must have the definite article the, and it should be before the superlative degree. So, these are the rules that you need to bear in mind while changing the given statement from one degree of comparison to the remaining 2 degrees of comparison. What are the rules that I have written, students? There are 3 degrees of comparison. They are the positive degree, the comparative degree, and the superlative degree. The positive degree begins with the words no other. It can also begin with the words very few. The positive degree ends with the words as dash as. The dash refers to the adjective mentioned in the given statement, but that adjective has to be changed into its positive degree. The fourth rule is the comparative degree must have the special word than. Where should be the position of the special word than? It should be immediately after the adjective written in the comparative degree. The last one is the superlative degree must have the definite article the. And where should the word the be written? It should be written before the adjective which is in the superlative degree, like the tallest, the highest, the biggest, the smartest, and beautiful also is an adjective, but you cannot add er or you cannot add est. So what will be the comparative degree of beautiful? It is going to be more beautiful, and the superlative degree would be most beautiful. Well, I hope, students, you have been able to understand degrees of comparison, like how you have understood the remaining grammatical structures, the grammatical structures that I have taught you before. I am sure you must have understood all of them. So, I hope and trust that you have also understood this exercise on degrees of comparison. All the very best, students. I hope you will all do well in your board exams.